Have you ever felt like the better you performed at work, the more resistance you faced? Have you ever wondered why being capable, reliable, and driven did not always lead to support from leadership? If so, you're not alone. One of the most frustrating truths high achievers learn is that excellence does not always make people comfortable. Sometimes it inspires respect, but other times it exposes insecurity in the people who are supposed to be leading. And when that happens, high achievers often find themselves being micromanaged, overlooked, criticized unfairly, or made to feel like their competence is somehow a threat. Today I want to talk about that because this is something many talented professionals experience, and it's something we don't always discuss enough. The message I want to leave with you is simple but powerful. Cream rises to the top, even when the process is hard, even when the recognition is delayed, even when leadership makes the journey more difficult than it should be. Today, we're talking about a follow-up to one of the biggest workplace frustrations high achievers face. In my earlier message, I talked about how micromanaging high achievers destroys morale, and that clearly struck a nerve with a lot of people. But I want to go one step further because sometimes the issue behind micromanagement, conflicting feedback, and unnecessary control is not just poor leadership habits. Sometimes it is intimidation. Over the years, I've talked with colleagues and friends from various industries, including education, the pharmaceutical industry, and government. And I've heard similar experiences over and over again. Talented, hardworking, highly capable people find themselves working under leaders who seem uncomfortable with their competence, their initiative, or their potential. And that discomfort can show up in a lot of ways. So in this video, I want to talk about why that happens, how it affects high achievers, and what you need to remember if you are in one of those environments right now. A lot of high achievers grow up believing that if they work hard, stay disciplined, and produce results, they will naturally be recognized and supported. And ideally, that should be true. In healthy environments, strong leaders are not threatened by talented people. They mentor them, develop them. They create space for them to grow. They are secure enough to recognize potential without feeling diminished by it. But not every environment is healthy, and not every leader is secure. That means excellence does not always get rewarded right away. Sometimes it gets questioned. Sometimes it gets scrutinized. Sometimes it gets resisted. That can be very disorienting for high achievers because they are doing what they thought they were supposed to do. They are showing initiative. They are producing. They are being dependable. They're taking ownership. And yet, somehow instead of being empowered, they're being controlled. Instead of being encouraged, they are being nitpicked. Instead of being developed, they're being delayed. That disconnect is painful. Now let's talk about how intimidation can actually show up. Because most leaders are not going to come out and say, "I feel threatened by you." It usually shows up indirectly. Sometimes it looks like micromanagement. A leader suddenly wants to control every small detail of your work, even though you've already shown that you're capable. Sometimes it looks like conflicting feedback. You're criticized in one moment and praised in the next, leaving you confused about where you really stand. Sometimes it looks like withheld opportunities. You're doing the work, producing the results, but somehow the advancement, visibility, or recognition keeps getting delayed. Sometimes it looks like being overlooked in meetings. Your ideas are ignored, minimized, or only recognized when someone else says them. Sometimes it looks like excessive scrutiny. You're held to a different standard than others because leadership is more focused on managing your presence than supporting your growth. And over time, these patterns start to wear people down. What makes it even more difficult is that high achievers often do not immediately label this as intimidation. At first, they may even just think they need to work harder, explain themselves better, or be more patient. But sometimes patience is not the issue. Sometimes you're dealing with leadership that does not know how to handle strong people well. This kind of dynamic can be especially difficult for high achievers because they often care deeply about doing things well. They are not usually trying to create problems. They're trying to solve them. They're not usually looking for conflict. They're looking to contribute. They are not trying to make leaders look bad. They're trying to do good work. So when the response to their effort is tension, resistance, or over control, it can become deeply discouraging. It can make them start questioning themselves. Am I doing too much? Am I making people uncomfortable? Should I say less? Should I stop taking initiative? Should I lower my expectations? That is where the danger comes in. Because unhealthy leadership can make high achievers shrink. It can make them hide their strengths. It can make them tone down their excellence just to survive. And that is a loss, not only for the individual, but for the entire organization. What stands out to me is that this is not isolated to one type of workplace. I've had conversations with colleagues and friends from education, the pharmaceutical industry, and government. And while their day-to-day responsibilities may be very different, the emotional experience often sounds the same. In education, I've heard from people who are deeply committed, highly capable, and full of ideas, yet they find themselves working in systems where leadership can become territorial instead of supportive. In the pharmaceutical industry, I have heard from professionals operating in demanding, high-stakes environments who still run into managers that confuse control with leadership and insecurity with authority. And in government, I've heard from people navigating serious responsibilities who still find themselves slowed down by leaders who seem more focused on protecting their position than cultivating strong talent. Different sectors, same dynamic. That tells me that this is a broader leadership issue. It is not always about one bad personality. It is often about insecurity, ego, and a lack of leadership maturity. Now let's talk about the hopeful part of this message. Because while it is still important to name the problem, I don't want high achievers to leave this conversation feeling defeated. I want you to remember this. Cream rises to the top. That does not mean the journey is easy. It does not mean every strong performer is instantly recognized. It does not mean every workplace rewards excellence fairly. But it does mean this: real ability, real growth, real discipline, and real perseverance have a way of creating opportunity eventually. Your value does not disappear because someone else feels intimidated by it. Your potential does not expire because one leader does not know what to do with it. Your future is not limited to the emotional maturity of your current manager. That is important. Because sometimes high achievers begin to tie their self-worth to what one leader sees or does not see. And that's a mistake. A leader can delay your recognition, can complicate your path, can make your season harder, but they do not get to define your ultimate worth. Cream rises to the top, sometimes in the same organization, sometimes on a new team, sometimes under new leadership, sometimes in a completely different space that finally knows how to value what you bring. But it rises. One of the hardest things for high achievers is delayed recognition. When you know you're working hard, producing, improving, and staying committed, it can be painful to feel unseen. And if that goes on long enough, discouragement starts to settle in. You may start thinking, maybe this is as far as I can go. Maybe my time is never coming. Maybe all this effort is pointless. But delayed recognition is not the same as denied potential. Sometimes your breakthrough takes longer because the environment around you is limited, not because you are. Sometimes the room is too small for what you carry. Sometimes leadership is too insecure to nurture what they should be championing. And sometimes what feels like rejection is actually redirection. That is why high achievers cannot afford to give up too soon. Not every season reveals your full reward. Some seasons build your endurance. Some seasons sharpen your discernment. Some seasons teach you not to look to insecure people for validation they are incapable of giving. Those lessons matter too. What should high achievers do when they find themselves in environments like this? First, do not let insecure leadership make you doubt your value. That does not mean ignore feedback or assume every challenge is someone else's fault. It means stay grounded enough to recognize when the issue is deeper than your performance. Second, keep refining your skills. Don't stop growing just because your current environment is not celebrating your growth. Keep learning, keep improving, keep building substance that no one can take from you. Third, document your achievements. When leadership is inconsistent, it helps to keep a clear record of your contributions, results, wins, and impact. That's useful for performance conversations, promotions, and future opportunities. Fourth, pay attention to the environment. Ask yourself whether you are in a space that can truly support your next level. Sometimes perseverance means staying. Sometimes wisdom means leaving. Both require courage. And finally, keep going. Not blindly, not in denial, but with the understanding that one hard season does not define your career. If you're watching this and feeling discouraged, I want to say this directly. Do not let intimidated leadership convince you that your excellence is the problem. Do not let someone else's discomfort become your identity. Do not shrink yourself just to fit inside someone else's insecurity. Yes, the journey may be hard. The recognition may be delayed. Yes, it can hurt to feel blocked by the very people who should be developing you. But your story does not end there. Keep showing up. Keep growing. Keep preparing. Keep believing that your breakthrough can still come. Because cream rises to the top. And sometimes the greatest act of resilience is refusing to let a limited environment have the final say over what is possible for you. Some leaders will celebrate high achievers. Others will feel threatened by them. That's reality. But high achievers must remember that insecure leadership is not the end of the story. You may have to work harder. You may have to wait longer. You may have to navigate disappointment, delay, and frustration. But if you do not give up, your value will still make room for you. Cream rises to the top. Not always quickly, not always comfortably, but eventually. If this resonated with you, share your experience in the comments. Have you ever felt like a leader was intimidated by your growth, initiative, or your ability? And if this message encouraged you, like, subscribe, and share with someone who needs the reminder that delayed recognition does not mean diminished value. Your breakthrough may take time, but that does not mean it's not coming.